All right, in this segment, we're going to talk about how to use a softbox now. And the reason why we've gone into a softbox instead of using the umbrella is because the softbox throws a light directional and the umbrella throws a light all over the place. And I'm going to show you a few instances here of why the softbox is better for a lot of the things that we're going to do. So that's why you'll see photographers use softboxes for most of the close-up, really intricate, where you're trying to make sure that that light's exactly where you want it and off of some of the things you don't want it to be on. So let's talk a little bit about control of this light. If we just learn that softness is controlled by how big your light source is, and this box here, we can get closer and we have some control out of it, then we need to learn the next thing is, from the beginning I said, how do you know what's the correct distance of your light from the subject? And what do you think would determine that? Most photographers say the brightness of it. They'll say, oh, it's too bright, back it up, now it's not as bright. Or it's not bright enough, let's bring it closer. Now, as a photographer, be honest, have you ever taken your lights and determined the correct distance of the light from the subject by how bright it is? Remember, it's not bright enough, bring it in closer, it's too bright, back it off. All you're doing with that is setting your aperture. The aperture and the brightness is not quality. We're going to go on the other road now and go back to the quality. Okay, so we learned what softness is. Now we need to learn about light depth of field. Light depth of field. Wonder what that could be. So we're going to learn that. So we got this light. That's interesting, huh? So we got this light and we have it in really close. And I'm going to turn these other lights so it doesn't contaminate us. And we'll come back to what these lights are for. Now that you have the light in really close so that it's soft, right? Light depth of field means that light in close falls off fast. It doesn't travel very far. So there's two things always going through our brain when we're photographers and we're setting up lighting, and that is how big should it be and how far away. That's all we're thinking about. Not necessarily how bright. It is important, but the bigger factors is how big, how far away. So let's just say I was thinking, oh, I want it soft. I'm going to bring the light in really close, and it's working and everything's fine because light in close will also wrap around. But then when you go to do a group of two, if we were to take a picture now of the two of us, you take a metering, let's just say she's f8, I'm 5'6", so now I'm a stop darker than she is. How would you fix that? Something's wrong with the lighting. It's soft, it's wrapping around, but light in close falls off fast. So the way to fix it, how do you even out the brightness on us? Some photographers say put a reflector over here. So if you put a reflector over here, let's just say her highlight's f8, my bright part from that light's 5'6", over here's, let's just say 2.8, you put a reflector here, it's now f4, 5. So you could raise the shadow, but you can't raise how bright that light is. So the only way to even out the light is, remember, when you're on location or whatever you're doing, if I'm a light and I'm on a stand, the distance of your light is your coverage, right? You bring the light in close, it's dying. If I take this light and I back it up, it's had a chance to spread away from itself. So we're going to back the light up a little bit. So now we back the light up and boy, it's got a chance to spread a little bit more. So now if you take a meter reading, we're both, let's just say 4, 5. So now you've evened out the light. So the biggest thing you're going to do with lighting is change the distance for your coverage. But now that you've changed the distance for your coverage and the light's even on both of us, what changed in the quality? And don't say brightness, because brightness is not quality. That's just what f-stop you're shooting at. Quality is the light got smaller. Okay, I have two hands. I can't change the size of my hands, but if I bring it closer to you, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You're figuring this all out relative to us. As that light relative to us gets further and further and further away, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, even though it didn't change its physical size. So now, how do you make a light that far away, as you backed it up, the same quality of softness as it was when it was in close? Correct. The size of the light, make it bigger. Remember, write down two things: size, distance. Size, distance. Everything in lighting, if you have a problem, is normally the size and the distance. So you back the light up, make it the next size bigger. Back it up even more, make it another size bigger. You ever wonder why manufacturers make different size softboxes? Is based on how big your subject is. Like, I'm in Detroit, that's where I'm from, that's where we're here right now, and we photograph cars, not necessarily in this studio, but in Detroit's famous for light sources that are 80 feet large. So if it's not the size of it, they could have just used an umbrella to take a picture of the car. So the rule of thumb is for a light to wrap around, it needs to be 2 times bigger than your subject, and that's a great starting point for you. So remember, when you back it up, make it bigger. If you bring it in closer, a smaller one's fine for head and shoulders. If you want a rule of thumb, 2 times bigger than your subject. If you're just going to do this much, make it bigger. So I hope that helps you with figuring out what's the correct distance.